Hey everyone, I never thought I'd be the one posting something like this, but here I am. I've been reading posts on here for a while, quietly, in the background, never imagining I'd have a reason to share my own story. But I need to get this off my chest because it's tearing me apart inside. And maybe, just maybe, someone out there will read this and feel a little less alone in their own mess. I'm a 38-year-old father of two amazing kids. My wife, Sophie, not her real name, is 36, and we've been married for just over 10 years. She's the general manager of a pretty popular restaurant in town, well-known, upscale, busy every night. I'm the one who mostly stays home and handles everything with the kids, school runs, cooking, helping with homework, piano lessons, dentist appointments, you name it. We made that decision together when our youngest was born. At the time, it made sense. She had a career on the rise, and I was burnt out and ready for a change. I've never resented that dynamic, not once. I've always believed we were a team, different roles, same goal. Things were good for a long time. Or maybe I just thought they were. But looking back now, there were signs. I just didn't want to see them. The first red flag? Eric. Eric is her ex-boyfriend. The one before me. They dated for something like 4 years. I never got the full story about why they broke up, just vague comments about him being immature and not ready for something serious. I always found it weird that they kept in touch, but Sophie swore they were just friends. That he was harmless. That I was the one she chose to marry, and that should be all the reassurance I needed. So, yeah. I let it go. At first, Eric would only come around once in a while. Birthday parties. BBQs, group gatherings. I didn't love it, but I didn't want to be the insecure husband either. He was always polite, overly friendly even. The kind of guy who'd bring an expensive bottle of wine and play with the kids like he was Uncle Eric. He'd chat with me, compliment Sophie in that, totally not flirting but obviously flirting, way, and somehow always managed to steer the conversation back to the good old days he and Sophie shared. I'd raise an eyebrow, but Sophie would laugh it off. He's just being nostalgic, she'd say, rolling her eyes. Don't be jealous, babe. Then he started showing up at her restaurant. Alone. Again, I said nothing. Maybe he likes the food, I told myself. Maybe he really is just a friend. Maybe I'm overthinking this. But there was this one night, 3 months ago now, that stuck with me. He came over for dinner. We'd just finished eating, and I was cleaning up the kitchen while Sophie and Eric were talking in the living room. I don't think they realized I could hear them from the hallway. Eric said something like, "You haven't changed. You're still the most dangerous woman I know." And Sophie laughed, this breathy, girlish laugh I hadn't heard in years. And then she said, "That's because you bring out the worst in me." I froze. My gut twisted. I remember standing there with the wet dish in my hand, staring into the sink like it could tell me whether I was being paranoid or if something real was happening right under my nose. I didn't say anything that night. But that moment? That was when the seed of doubt was planted. After that dinner with Eric, something started to shift. And I don't mean in a dramatic, soap opera kind of way. It was subtle. Quiet. Almost invisible, unless you were really looking. And after hearing that weird exchange between them, I was looking. Sophie became distracted. Less present. She was always glued to her phone, texting someone late at night, claiming it was just work stuff. She'd laugh at her screen and then quickly flip it over if I walked into the room. Her mood swings got sharper. 1 minute she was overly sweet, clinging to me, complimenting my cooking or thanking me for holding down the fort, and the next she was irritable, defensive, picking fights over stupid things like forgetting to take out the trash or the way I folded the towels. And then came the nights she didn't come home. Not often, just once or twice at first. She claimed there was a last-minute staffing issue at the restaurant and she had to stay late. Then it was inventory. Then it was a broken freezer. Then a new menu rollout. Thing is, I've worked in restaurants before. I know how they run. And none of those excuses made sense. I confronted her gently. Just asked if she was okay. Told her I was worried. She brushed me off with a kiss on the cheek and a half-laugh. Babe, I'm just tired. Managing that place is a nightmare sometimes. Don't go all Lifetime movie on me. She always knew exactly what to say to make me feel stupid for doubting her. But one night, about a month ago, things really started to feel off. She came home late again, said they had a guest complaint she had to deal with. She looked frazzled, but also flushed. Like she'd just come out of a heated argument or a shower. Her hair was messy, not in the usual way, but like someone had grabbed it. Her blouse was half untucked. I asked her about it, and she laughed, nervously. God, you sound like a jealous teenager. Eric was being a dick at the restaurant. That's all. He flipped out on one of the servers and I had to calm him down. She mentioned Eric casually, like it was nothing. Like he was just some annoying customer. But why the hell was he even there so often? When I asked, she rolled her eyes. He's just lonely, okay? He comes in to eat and talk. It's not like I'm hiding anything. Those words stuck with me, it's not like I'm hiding anything. Because that's exactly what it felt like she was doing. From that moment on, I started watching more closely. Checking receipts in her purse. Tracking timestamps when she left and came home. Watching how often she smiled at her phone, then quickly tucked it away. And then something happened that made the doubt feel like a full-on storm in my chest. Our youngest had a school recital. Sophie said she couldn't make it, something about a broken wine cooler that she had to deal with personally. She looked me in the eye and swore she'd make it up to our daughter. Said she felt awful. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. But after the recital, when I took the kids out for ice cream, I saw Eric's car parked at the far end of the restaurant's back lot. And Sophie's car, too. Both there. No other employees. No customers, restaurant closed on Mondays. It was 7:30 p.m. I didn't go inside. Not that night. I just drove home, sick to my stomach, trying to tell myself there had to be a good explanation. But something told me, deep down, I already knew. A week after that night, the night I saw both their cars behind the restaurant, I finally gave in to the voice in my head that had been screaming at me to stop trusting and start knowing. I'm not proud of what I did next. But when you feel like you're being gaslit in your own marriage, when the woman you've loved for over a decade keeps brushing off your concerns with smirks and guilt trips, you start breaking your own rules. So, I checked her phone. I waited until she was in the shower. She always left it charging on the nightstand, face down. No password change, I guess she thought she had me well trained by now. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for. But I didn't have to dig far. There was no name saved, just a number. But the thread was full of messages. The kind that make your throat close up and your hands go cold. Can't stop thinking about what you did to me in the office. You still know exactly how to push my buttons, and pull my hair. I miss the way you used to look at me when you were on top. I felt like I was going to vomit. And then came the photo. Blurry. Taken in her office. Her blouse open. Him holding her waist. His face nuzzled into her neck. She was smiling. Not just smiling, glowing. That smile she used to give me, back when things were good. Back when I was still enough. I scrolled, shaking. Weeks of this. Sometimes daily messages. Dirty. Romantic. Recounting their past sex life in detail. Planning future meetings. Even laughing at me. He's so clueless. Feels bad for leaving me with the kids again tonight. If only he knew what I was doing with you instead. My heart shattered in that moment. Not just because she cheated, but because of the mockery. The deliberate lies. The contempt she clearly had for the life we built together, the one I was holding together with both hands while she tore it apart with someone she claimed was just a friend. I put her phone back and went to the bathroom. Just stood outside the door, listening to the water run. My wife. Naked. In the shower. Singing to herself. And all I could think was, how many times has she come home from him and climbed into bed with me like nothing happened? I didn't say anything that night. I didn't sleep either. Instead, I started planning. Because now it wasn't a question of if I'd confront her. It was how. And when. I didn't rush it. As much as I wanted to scream in her face that I knew everything, I needed to be smart. Calm. Controlled. I'd read too many stories of people confronting their cheating partners only to be gaslit into thinking they were the crazy ones. So I waited. I let her dig her hole deeper. And she did. More late nights. More fake apologies to the kids. More tired smiles and cold kisses. It was a Saturday afternoon when I finally snapped. We were in the kitchen. She was on her phone again, giggling at something, then quickly sliding it into her back pocket when I walked in. She looked up and said, "Hey babe, thinking of taking the kids to the park? I've got some inventory to do at work. I won't be long." That was it. That was the trigger. That stupid, casual lie. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just looked her straight in the eye and said, "How long have you been fucking Eric?" The silence that followed was deafening. She blinked. Laughed awkwardly. "What the hell are you talking about?" I didn't break eye contact. Don't play dumb. I saw the messages. The photos. The little fantasy novel you two have been writing behind my back. Her face drained. Instantly. No more laughter. Just cold panic washing over her features. "You went through my phone," she hissed. That's what she cared about. Not the betrayal. Not our marriage. Not the kids. But the invasion of her privacy. Yes. And I'd do it again. Because you've been lying to my face for weeks. Sleeping with your ex, laughing at me behind my back. While I was home putting our daughter to bed, you were screwing him in your office. She looked away. Her jaw clenched. And then, suddenly, she switched into defense mode. "It wasn't like that," she muttered. "You don't understand. It just happened. One time. I was angry. He said some things, and I was emotional. It was a mistake." I couldn't believe she had the audacity to lie even now. One time. Really? I pulled out my phone and opened the screenshots I'd saved. "So this message from last week, 'You made me come so hard I almost passed out,' that was from the one time, was it?" Her mouth opened, then closed. Caught. Finally. "You don't get it," she snapped. "You don't see me anymore. You're always busy with the kids. You've let yourself go. You act more like a babysitter than a husband." That hit like a punch to the gut. "I sacrificed everything so you could chase your career," I said, my voice shaking. "I stayed home. I gave up my job, my dreams, my social life, so we could have a stable home. And you repay that by crawling back to the guy you said wasn't good enough for you?" She rolled her eyes. Rolled her eyes. "Maybe he wasn't good enough back then," she said coldly, "but at least he made me feel wanted." I just stood there. Frozen. Something inside me cracked. Whatever was left of the man who trusted her, believed in her, that guy was gone now. "You disgust me," I said quietly. "You've lied to me, disrespected our marriage, made a fool out of me in my own home. And for what? Some washed-up ex who walks around like he owns your body again?" She didn't answer. She just crossed her arms and looked away, like I was the one causing the scene. That was the moment I knew, she wasn't sorry. Not really. She was sorry she got caught. After the confrontation, I walked out. I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. I just left her standing there in the kitchen like a stranger in our home. I took a walk through the neighborhood, something I hadn't done in a long time without the kids, and I let it all crash in on me. The betrayal. The years of sacrifice. The quiet nights I spent folding laundry while she was out letting another man feel her skin. All of it poured in like a flood, and for the first time in years, I felt completely alone. When I got back, she was still home. Sitting at the table. Wine in hand. Not crying. Not apologizing. Just sipping. Like nothing happened. "I think we need to talk," she said, her voice calm, like we were discussing groceries. I sat down across from her. Not because I wanted to hear anything else, but because I needed to know what kind of person I'd really married. She started with the usual, "I didn't mean to hurt you, it wasn't supposed to happen, I've been confused lately." But then the narrative twisted. "I didn't feel desired anymore," she said, staring into her glass. "I manage a restaurant full of people who look at me like I matter. And then I come home, and you're in sweatpants with peanut butter on your shirt, watching cartoons with the kids. I just forgot what it felt like to be wanted." I wanted to scream. To ask her what the hell she thought I'd been feeling all these years. How I gave up everything to make sure she had space to grow. That I hadn't felt wanted in years, but I stayed. I showed up. I cooked. I cleaned. I raised our kids while she built a career. But I didn't say that. Because the part that truly broke me was that she said all of it so calmly. Like she'd rehearsed this speech. Like she believed that sleeping with her ex was a reasonable reaction to a husband who wore sweatpants too often. There was no remorse. No pain in her eyes. No sense that she'd shattered something sacred. Just justification. I told her I wanted space. I needed time to think. She nodded like she understood, then had the nerve to ask if I could still pick the kids up from school the next day. Like I was just her assistant now. I slept in the guest room that night. And the night after that. Every time I looked at her, I didn't see my wife anymore. I saw a liar. A cheater. A woman who watched me break my back for our family while she slipped into someone else's arms and blamed me for her choices. And the worst part? She went to work like nothing happened. Still ran the restaurant. Still texted on her phone like she had some kind of secret lover's immunity. That's when I knew, I wasn't mourning her. I was mourning the version of her I thought was real. The hardest part wasn't the cheating. It wasn't the lies, the gaslighting, or the fact that the woman I'd built a life with had tossed me aside like a used napkin. The hardest part was facing the kids. We have two. Our daughter is 9, and our son just turned 6. They're sweet, bright, and full of energy. Up until recently, they thought their world was perfect. Mommy worked hard. Daddy stayed home. They always had one of us around. They never saw it coming. Neither did I. At first, I tried to keep things normal. I was still making pancakes in the morning, still helping with homework, still packing lunches. But something in me had changed. The joy I used to feel doing those things, it was gone. And they felt it. My daughter was the first to ask. "Dad, why are you sleeping in the other room?" It hit me like a truck. I wasn't ready. I mumbled something about snoring and needing space. She didn't buy it. She's smart. She looked at me, her eyes narrowing the same way her mothers do when she knows I'm lying. Then came the night when she asked the real question. "Are you and Mom mad at each other?" I didn't answer right away. I couldn't. Because the truth was too ugly, and she was too young. How do you explain to a child that the woman who tucks her in at night betrayed everything her family was built on? Eventually, I said, we're having a hard time right now. But I love you. That will never change. She nodded quietly, but I saw the tears start to form. She didn't want me to see, so she turned away and curled into her blanket. My son, he's too young to understand the emotional shift, but not too young to feel it. He kept asking when we'd all go out together again. Can we go to the zoo? All of us. And Sophie, she acted like everything was fine. She'd stroll in after work, kiss them on the head, and chat about her day like she hadn't turned our family upside down behind the scenes. Watching her put on that performance made me sick. She was still wearing the mask, playing the doting mother, while treating me like an inconvenience. And then one night, something inside me snapped. We were at the dinner table. Our daughter said, "Mommy, Eric came to my school once for lunch. Is he your friend?" The fork slipped out of Sophie's hand. She froze. And in that instant, I realized he'd been around the kids more than I thought. Not just in passing. Not just during visits. He was present. In their spaces. While she was cheating, she was slowly inserting him into their lives too. I stood up and left the table. I couldn't look at her. If I had, I might have said something unforgivable. Later that night, I told Sophie, he's never allowed near them again. Ever. She scoffed. Don't be dramatic. I got in her face, not yelling, but shaking with rage. If you let that man within 20 feet of my children again, I swear I'll go scorched earth. Try me. She backed off. For now. But that was the night I started researching lawyers. When I said I started researching lawyers, I wasn't bluffing. That night, while she slept peacefully in our bed, like nothing had happened, I was on my laptop in the guest room, heart pounding, scrolling through local family law attorneys. At first, I wasn't even sure I wanted a divorce. I was still clinging to this pathetic shred of hope that maybe, somehow, she'd wake up, realize the devastation she caused, and fight to fix it. But what I really needed was clarity, and someone in my corner who wasn't lying to my face. I booked a consultation with a lawyer the following week. Just to understand my options. Custody. Financials. Property. The works. I walked in there with a folder of screenshots and a lump in my throat. You're in a strong position, the lawyer told me. You've been the primary caregiver. You have evidence of infidelity. If you decide to proceed, you'll be okay. Those words hit hard, if you decide to proceed. Because that's when I realized, I couldn't live like this anymore. Not with someone who looked me in the eyes every day and still chose to lie. And the lies didn't stop. A few days later, Sophie told me she was working late again. She even tossed in a casual, "Don't wait up." So I didn't. Instead, I drove to the restaurant. Parked across the street in my car, lights off. Just sat there and watched. Sure enough, at 9:17 p.m., Eric pulled up. Got out. Walked around to the back door. She let him in herself. Smiling. She wasn't working late. She was entertaining her affair partner in her office, again. Like it was normal. Like I didn't exist. Like our kids didn't exist. The next morning, she was all sunshine and small talk. Want me to grab you coffee on my way home tonight? She asked, like she wasn't busy screwing someone else in the place she built her career in. I didn't respond. I couldn't even look at her. And that's when something clicked. She didn't care that I knew. She wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. But what came next, that's what really lit the fire in me. I found out through a mutual friend, one of the few who still talks to both of us, that Eric had been bragging. Apparently, he'd been telling people at the restaurant that he was back with the boss, that she was never really over him, and the one that burned the most. She said she settled with the stay-at-home husband. Settled. Like I was some kind of placeholder until he showed up again. That was it. That was the last nail in the coffin. She'd been telling people I was less than. That I wasn't a man. That I didn't satisfy her. That I gave up ambition and became domesticated while she handled the real world. Meanwhile, I was running the household like clockwork, managing kids, cooking, keeping the family together, all while she went out and played teenage games with her ex. And I'll be honest, part of me started to feel shame. Like maybe I was pathetic. Maybe I'd become soft. Maybe I should have fought harder to be desirable. But then I looked around at the life I was holding together. The children I was raising. The home I maintained. And I realized something. She didn't deserve me. She never did. I think everyone has one. A point where you just snap. Not violently. Not dramatically. Just internally. Quietly. Fatally. A line gets crossed and something inside you dies, and you know you'll never go back. For me, it was the Saturday morning I overheard Sophie talking on the phone. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, I was getting laundry from the hallway closet, but I heard her voice through the slightly cracked bedroom door. Whispering. Laughing. Then silence, followed by. Don't worry, he's still clueless. He won't do anything. He's too busy playing housewife. I froze. She was talking about me. Again. Still mocking me. Still lying. Still treating this like some twisted game where she was the prize and I was the fool who couldn't see the chessboard. And the worst part? She wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. When I walked in, she hung up and looked at me like I was gum on the bottom of her shoe. Something you need? I just stood there, holding a basket full of folded kids' clothes, staring at the woman I used to adore. The woman I thought would grow old with me. The woman who, years ago, cried with joy when we found out we were going to be parents. Now she looked at me with pity. Contempt. I put the basket down slowly and said, I want a divorce. For the first time in months, her face changed. She blinked, like she hadn't expected it. Like she thought she'd broken me down so far that I'd just keep playing my role forever. Maybe she thought I didn't have the spine left to stand up for myself. She tried to recover quickly. Rolled her eyes. Oh, come on. Don't be dramatic. I laughed. A bitter, humorless thing. Dramatic? I've spent months pretending I didn't know you were screwing your ex in your office. I've raised our kids while you played manager by day, mistress by night. And I kept hoping, stupidly, that maybe you'd snap out of it. But you didn't. You chose this. That got her attention. She sat on the edge of the bed, crossing her arms. So what, you're just going to walk away from all this? From the kids? From me? No, I said. I'm walking away from you. Not them. Never them. And that's when the switch flipped. She realized she lost control. Suddenly she was angry. Defensive. You think you're some kind of hero? You think you're going to get custody just because you've been playing Mr. Mom? This is my house. My life. You were just along for the ride. That stung more than I want to admit. But it also confirmed everything I needed to know. She never saw me as an equal. Not a partner. Not a father holding our world together. Just a placeholder. A man-shaped accessory to keep the house running while she chased validation in the arms of her ex. I stood there for a second. Let it sink in. Then I walked out. I spent the rest of the day drafting my plan. Legal steps. Housing. Custody. It was no longer about saving anything. It was about reclaiming everything she tried to take from me. Once the decision was made, I felt something I hadn't felt in months, maybe even years, clarity. No more guessing. No more begging for honesty. No more second-guessing my instincts while being fed lies with a smile. Now, it was just about getting out. Smart. Clean. Safe, for me and the kids. First, I met again with my lawyer. This time with full commitment. I brought every screenshot, every timestamp, a timeline of events, and even the audio I recorded from that phone call I overheard. Yes, I recorded it. I needed proof. Not to humiliate her, but to protect myself if custody turned into a war. The lawyer was impressed. Said most people come in with vague suspicions and drama. I came in with evidence, calm, and a plan. Judges care about stability, he said. Right now, you're the stable one. Exactly. That became my focus. I stopped reacting to Sophie. Didn't argue. Didn't flinch. When she came home late, I was cheerful. When she snapped at me, I let it roll off. She thought I'd given up, but really, I was documenting everything. Patterns. Missed dinners. Broken promises. Texts I wasn't supposed to see, calls she didn't know I overheard. I created a separate bank account. Quietly moved my pay from a few freelance jobs into it. Not a fortune, but enough for a down payment on a rental. I contacted a friend who had a small 2-bedroom apartment available. No listing. No public ad. Just trust and good timing. I started packing little things, my stuff, the kids' essentials, into boxes in the garage, labeling them as seasonal or donations. She didn't notice. But the hardest part? Preparing the kids. I didn't tell them anything outright. That would have been unfair. But I started easing them into the idea that sometimes grown-ups change. That not all families look the same forever. That no matter what, I'd always be their dad and I'd never leave them behind. Our daughter understood more than she let on. One night she hugged me tight and whispered, "Are we gonna have 2 homes soon?" I choked back tears and said, "Maybe. But you'll always have one with me." I spent the next few weeks putting together everything I'd need to file: finances, a parenting plan, witness statements from friends who'd seen her with Eric, even text confirmations that she'd left the kids with me while working late, when I had proof she wasn't working at all. I wasn't preparing for a fight. I was preparing to win one, if it came to that. And the irony? The calmer I became, the more chaotic she got. She started accusing me of withdrawing, of being cold. She'd try to initiate intimacy and I'd politely decline, something that drove her insane. "You think I don't notice?" she hissed one night. "You're planning something." I looked her dead in the eye and said, "I'm planning to protect my children from people who don't value loyalty. If that includes you, then yeah, I'm planning something." She didn't ask again. The final straw came when I discovered she had given Eric a key to our house. That's right. He had been inside when I wasn't home, God knows how many times. She denied it, of course. Claimed it was just once when he needed to drop something off. But I found the key in the junk drawer. Labeled with tape. His initials on it. That was it. The next morning, I filed the papers. She didn't see it coming. Not really. She knew something was off, my quietness, the emotional distance, the cold shoulder in bed, but she still believed, deep down, that I wouldn't actually leave. That I didn't have it in me. That she'd broken me enough to keep me in orbit, spinning around her chaos. She was wrong. It happened on a Thursday morning. I waited until the kids were already at school. I made her coffee like usual. Set it on the counter. Calm, polite. And then, I slid the envelope across the kitchen island. She looked at it, then at me, confused. "What's this?" "Divorce papers." She blinked. For a second, it didn't register. Like I'd handed her a grocery list or a note from a neighbor. Then her hands froze. She picked it up slowly, her eyes scanning the top of the document, and then she looked at me. "You're serious?" "As a heart attack." Her face twisted into this half laugh, half snarl. "You're divorcing me? Over a couple of mistakes?" "A couple?" I raised an eyebrow. "You've been screwing your ex in your office. Letting him in our house. Lying to my face every day while mocking me to him. Don't play the victim now." She slammed the papers down. "You're not exactly a saint either. You've been cold. Distant. You stopped being a husband a long time ago." I kept my voice level. "I became a father full-time because you wanted to chase your career. I was a husband every single day until you started climbing back into bed with a guy you told me was just a friend. Don't twist this." She paced. Angry. Panicked. She was no longer in control, and it was cracking her facade. "So what, you think you'll just walk out and take the kids? Live some fantasy life where you're the noble single dad and I'm the villain?" I crossed my arms. "No fantasy. Just facts. I've documented everything. The nights you didn't come home. The messages. The photos. Even your voice on the phone, laughing about how clueless I was. You don't just lose my respect, you've lost the benefit of the doubt in court." Her eyes widened. She hadn't realized how much I'd gathered. "You were spying on me. I was protecting myself. You made me question my reality for months. Gaslit me while sleeping with someone behind my back. You left me no choice." And then came the breakdown. Not guilt. Not sadness. Rage. "You'll ruin everything," she shouted. "The restaurant, my reputation, our image, our kids." I looked her dead in the eyes. "You already did." She didn't cry. I think that would have required remorse. Instead, she stormed out of the house, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the walls. I stood there in the silence afterward, shaking but steady. I knew I'd crossed a point of no return, but I also knew, for the first time in a long time, that I wasn't going to let her rewrite the story. She could scream. She could deny. She could spin it however she wanted. But the truth was in writing now. And this time, I was the one in control. If I thought the divorce papers would be the climax, I was wrong. That was just the opening shot. Because once the shock wore off, Sophie did exactly what I feared she'd do, she weaponized the kids. She lawyered up. Fast. Probably called in favors from people she knew through the restaurant. Her attorney sent a formal reply within 3 days, and right there on the front page it said, "Mother seeks primary custody." I laughed bitterly when I read it. Primary custody. From the woman who worked 60 hours a week, missed school plays, forgot dentist appointments, and handed them off to me like she was dropping off dry cleaning. The same woman who lied about working late while sneaking around with her ex. Now she wanted to be the full-time parent. When we met for the preliminary custody hearing, I came prepared. My lawyer laid out everything, calendar logs, time spent with the children, missed holidays, nights she didn't come home. I even brought a journal I'd been quietly keeping the last few months. Every lie. Every absence. Every time I cooked, cleaned, tucked our kids in, and showed up when she didn't. Her side. Full of vague emotional appeals. The kids need their mother. He's trying to turn them against me. I've made mistakes, but I'm still their mom. The judge listened. Took notes. And for once, someone else could see through her performance. We were granted temporary 50-50 custody, pending a full evaluation. And that infuriated her. She cornered me in the parking lot afterward, her sunglasses hiding nothing about the rage on her face. "You really want to do this in front of them?" she hissed. "You want them growing up in courtrooms?" I stayed calm. I'd rehearsed for this. No. I want them growing up with truth. With love. With stability. That's not what you've been giving them. She scoffed, called me vindictive, and stormed off. But it didn't end there. Suddenly, she started trying to be super mom. Picking them up from school with snacks. Buying them expensive toys. Posting filtered family selfies online like we were one big happy clan again. She was trying to rewrite the story, publicly. But at home, it was different. Our daughter asked me one night, "Why is mommy being so weird?" I asked what she meant. "She keeps saying we're going to be a new family, but then she cries in the bathroom. And she made me tell her what you said about her." I hugged her tightly. Told her she didn't have to worry. That she didn't need to choose sides. But inside, I was boiling. Because Sophie wasn't just trying to win in court. She was trying to manipulate our children. I documented everything. Brought it to my attorney. And he just nodded, saying, "This is exactly what judges look at." I wasn't trying to take the kids away from her. But I'd be damned if I let someone who treated her marriage like a joke turn my children into pawns. The final hearing came faster than I expected. After months of preparing, documenting, fighting for truth, and holding it together for the kids, the day finally arrived when the judge would make it official. Sophie walked in looking polished, composed, wearing her best, respectable working mother mask. Eric wasn't there, of course. He was never part of the legal mess, just the bomb that detonated it. Me. I showed up with my lawyer, a folder full of receipts, literal and emotional, and the truth. No act. No manipulation. Just facts. The hearing was brutal. Her lawyer tried to paint me as unstable, overreactive, a jealous man who couldn't handle a strong wife. They spun the narrative like I was threatened by her independence, like I resented her success. But when the judge asked who packed the kids' lunches, who scheduled their doctor appointments, who attended every school meeting, she had no answer. Because the truth was simple. She had the title of mother, but I'd been doing the parenting. And then came the moment I'll never forget. The judge turned to her and said, "It appears you have consistently chosen work, personal relationships, and social engagements over time with your children. Can you explain why that will change now?" Her silence was the loudest thing in the room. Final ruling, I got primary custody. She would have shared visitation. Weekends. Some holidays. But the day-to-day? The decisions? The stability? That was mine. She cried outside the courtroom. Finally. Real tears. But not the kind that come from losing love. These were the tears of someone who lost control. Who thought they could walk all over someone and never be held accountable. Eric? Gone. She and him fizzled out shortly after I filed. Turns out, once she was no longer sneaking around and he had to actually be part of her real life, he lost interest. No thrill, no chase, no secrets. Just the boring, everyday mess she never wanted to face. Now she's alone. Occasionally bitter. Still pretending she's the victim to her friends who only know her version of the story. And me? I'm healing. It's slow. Some nights still hurt. I still have dreams where I wake up next to her and forget, for a second, what happened. Then it all floods back and I feel that pit in my stomach. But those dreams are fewer now. I'm reconnecting with friends. Going on walks with my kids and actually enjoying them. I laugh again. I sleep through the night. I look in the mirror and recognize the man staring back. I'm not broken anymore. I'm just free. If I have any advice to give, it's this. Trust your gut. Silence speaks volumes. And sometimes, walking away isn't losing, it's choosing yourself. No one teaches you how to survive betrayal by the person you gave your life to. But once you do, no one can ever take your peace again. Thanks for reading. Stay strong out there. You're not alone.